gentlemen. My analysis is based on a careful view over the modern societies, especially regarding the research field specific to sociology, mainly the one of sociology of religions. The title of my intervention has a doubt meaning: where is the role of religious dialogue in modern societies? Pluralism, modernity, and religious radicalism. And on one hand, it expresses, from my point of view, the disappointment that many of us feel when we think of the modernity of contemporary society. Something like this: where is the role of religious dialogue in modern society? And on the other hand, it expresses a research, curiously, to which I'm seeking to find an answer in the following. Of course, I will favor, under the influence of academic aspirations, the second meaning, but I will try to clarify the aspects that could fuel an eventual trend of disappointment to the place and role of religious dialogue in modern contemporary society. In order to conceptually structure the methodology of my analysis, I first propose to deconstruct the subject investigated, religious dialogue, pluralism, and modernity, so we can properly understand the theoretical basis of the subsequent analytical construction. Modernity and secularization. How do we actually define modernity? This word modernity has its origins in the Latin words modernus, which means new, and the root words is modo, which means right now. So, from the etymological perspective, we define the present time, especially in sociology, as the time of modernity, even if specialist opinions are diverse in this conceptual meaning. Initially, the term of modernity was used to define a number of innovative currents in literature, in art, specific to the early 20th century, the 1900s. But he later expanded its area of reference to history, philosophy, sociology, and especially the rapid development of industry, trying to define long periods of time characterized by the Enlightenment theories specific to the second half of the 19th century. By modernity or modern thinking were defined trends of autonomy of the individual, multiplying of the opportunities for education, reducing social differences, and upgrading by comfort and refinement of the lifestyle. Nowadays, the modernity defines a social paradox. On the one hand, it refers to the multiple and rapid processes of social transformation, with a particular respect for differentiated spheres of organization and social influence, a dynamic process of rationalization, emancipation, and individualization that some experts consider it metaphorically as a process of domestication of the human existence. In accordance with this principle of emancipation and liberation, the believer no longer acts toward obedience, but believes in what he wants to believe. In this logic of social reconstruction of the religious beliefs under the influence of modernity, the historic churches, strongly hierarchical and so bureaucratically structured and organized on the criteria of the discipline of clergy, are in visible loss of speed and in the deep conflict with the modernity of the contemporary society. But despite the interesting aspect that define modernity presented above, they have led paradoxically to the opposite effect of the process of social evolution. And so we see that the limits of modernity involve a number of important risks, such as ecological risks, increase of serious social inequalities through the worsening of the gap between rich and poor, and the constant military threats and risks that we observe increasingly present in the modern world of the contemporary Europe. In the religious life, the relationship between religion and modernity has been for a long time defined by the religious secularization paradigm, a Western European paradigm specific to the 60s, 70s, focusing especially on reducing the social influence of the traditional religions and on awakening regular attendance of the faithful at religious ceremonies, especially on Sundays. But social developments, particularly after 2000, showed that religion begins to become again a dynamic social actor, very active and important in the modern life. So Peter Berger, one of the theorists of secularization paradigm, denies his own theory through even a more famous phrase called the desecularization of the world. Through this, Berger wished to highlight that actually the modern world has reached an advanced process of secularization, but due to the rapid changes in the world, a revival of religious practices and beliefs can be seen. This religious revival brings the religious beliefs in an important social sphere, but the aging institution of the history and traditional churches are no longer revived, and religion transforms by suffering a multiple series of specific social mutations. Moreover, the difficulty of defining clear and convincing characteristic of secularization determines specialists in sociology, and I would mention here for academic rigor Vincenzo Pace, a known and appreciated contemporary Italian professor of sociology of religion, believing that the term secularization should be abandoned, it being old-fashioned and obsolete in front of the complex religious realities of the contemporaneity. The end of modern era defines the entry into another phase of post-industrial social construction based on accelerated growth of nanotechnological innovative technologies based on the advance made especially in genetic and spatial research. But to go back to the theme of our research and see what communication relationship we should identify between religion and modernity. The place and role of religions and dialogue in the modern United Europe. Talking nowadays about modern religions, it's meant to account necessarily the historical evolution of the contemporary societies. Specifically, all religions have as main dogma a teaching unchanged over time, regarded as the truth revealed, transmitted directly from God, whatever his name, and I'm not referring here only to the Christian religion, but all religions reveal whatever they are monotheistic or multitheistic. Modern religions base their activity on a strong canonical interpretation, legal codes, and the dominant religious moral transmitted to the followers as the only form of understanding and interpreting the realities of modernity. Nowadays, relations between religion in the European Union seem tense. An institutional tension which expresses itself through an attitude of indifference between the two entities. By the insistence of the European institutions to apply and develop legislation behavior that promotes European civil morality, conflicting with the religious morality, regardless of their identity expression. It fuels the danger of the social and cultural European uniformity, which obviously increases the mistrust between religions and the European Union, equally increasing the degree of social tension. There are ethnic and cultural tensions generated by a chaotic application of a policy of encouraging, for example, multiculturalism. Without taking into account the cultural and ethnic specificity of the different people from the European space, but also the context and the European specificity in its historical whole. Also, European social tensions are fueled by the economic crisis and the increasing inequalities between different social classes, and also by the capitalist competitive environment, more and more wild and without generally valid rules. In this European context, a question arises where the place and role of religious dialogue today. Do modern religions unite or separate the common European space? Whatever we refer to the attack of Charlie Hebdo, the Bataclan in France by the end of 2015, or the attacks in March 2016 in Brussels, we understand that this must not be the way. Religions should not encourage violence, enmity, hatred, and death. Religions should encourage life, happiness, understanding, and mutual dialogue, peace for future and European humanity. And now something about dialogue, communication, understanding, and religious pluralism. The responsibility for the future of Europe is shared by both of European institutions and the religions. But words are not enough to build real bridge of dialogue and mutual understanding. Do not forget that dialogue involves considering the other a true partner with equal rights. Therefore, concrete measures are needed to promote dialogue and mutual understanding. Frequently, the Romanian and the European realities, under the influence of economic interest and cultural precautions, often react contradictory when they are confronted with the realities emerging from cultural and religious patterns already established. Take, for example, the crisis of the refugees from Syria. There are fewer and fewer political analysts who make the difference between personal suffering of a man who lived in Syria until a few months ago and his Islamic identity. To protect his life, his family, and his children, he decided to go into exile in the European refuge. Unfortunately, the Europeans who received him in Greece, in Hungary, or Germany don't see in him a human man in distress, but see an extremist religious representative unable to adapt to modern European realities. Therefore, the European instantly manifests a rejection response. To return to his country has been the reaction of a Romanian citizen when the first group of 15 Syrian refugees has been lodged in Romania a few weeks ago. The rejection reaction is as brutal as it is surprising, especially considering that the Romanian society is considered a tolerant and welcoming society, especially seeing that it is a dominant Christian society with over 86% of believers of the Christian Orthodox Church. Another example of religious radicalism and social division is related to the reaction of a group of young people from Bucharest who protested in 2015 and 2016 also in various forms against the Muslim community intention to build a mosque in Romania's capital, Bucharest, to suit the needs of specific religious rites and rituals of the Islamic religion. Even if there is a tolerant attitude of the Romanians, it seems, however, that a small community with fundamentalist religious accents reject the idea of building a mosque in Bucharest, despite the good dialogue and relations between the Orthodox and Muslim living together in southeast of Romania. Here in Dobrogea, who live and still live in peace under and understanding for over 500 years. The main demand of the young protesters was the defending of the Orthodox Christian faith and their strong indignation expressed against the danger of Islamization of Romania. The Patriarch Daniel of Romania Orthodox Church called for balance and tolerance and dialogue, rejecting and condemning acts of religious extremism. The pluralism as functional attribute of modern contemporary democratic societies and as an expression of balance and fair relationship between state and church is expressed in the logic of social development and social stability, promoting common social interest and patterns of behavior based on ethical and moral values. The pluralism does not mean the pursuit of a social purpose based on cultural or religious smoothing, but cultivating and maintaining identity differences. The pluralism is thus a shared responsibility of the entire society and of all the institutions that it composes. The pluralism gives substance, balance, and dynamism to a society. It creates values and objectives of social development. And now some conclusions. The religious extremist slippages presented above show how modern religions, as I said in the beginning, religions that manifest in the context and under the influence of the specific factors of contemporary modernity, become the source of social division, and they fuel enmity and religious conflicts. Religions are often found in a state of conflict, religious moral objectives being interpreted often at odds with the modern society in which we live. The unilateral and exclusive interpretation of religious dogma and imposing them on other societies, structured on other cultural and religious traditions, lead to social division and to ethnic and religious exclusion. The social tension arising from the aggressive relationship between religions and modern contemporary societies will worsen if no genuine effort will be promoted in supporting dialogue between religions and civilization. The growing and understanding of religious pluralism is one of the fundamental conditions of peaceful coexistence in the European society. Now we see a worrying phenomenon in Europe. More specifically, the European economic crisis, which resulted in the shocking of the Greek economy in recent years, plus the Brexit, matched with a new unprecedented crisis for Europe, the Syrian and Muslims refugees crisis. We are all standing in the face of some extremely complicated problems which are the most important challenges for Europe at the beginning of this century. For now, the conflict of the European crisis is far from having a real solution to solve the problems, and the dialogue we consider could be an excellent strategy of peaceful political and religious issues. Thank you very much.